Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. This is the 115th element of my Let the Women Tell It series. And this one is the body count judgment, the body count question, those kind of things that women use to gaslight men into submission. The truth of the matter is that the American Western man, we have long since stopped looking for virgins in women. I mean, I got married in 1987, and I never asked my wife, was she a virgin or some shit like that. It's crazy. Most men have accepted the fact that the women they marry has had experience before. We just simply don't want whores. That's it. There's got to be a place where we draw the line. So that's one. And two, like, share, and subscribe to this channel because I'm going to let this woman tell it, but she's gaslighting all the way. However, she does have a certain point in certain elements. I'll let you pick those out. But the biggest flaw she has in her argument is that she doesn't want to be judged. And we all are judged, especially if we're going to get married. If you're just a one-off and a one-night stand, I don't give a shit who you've been with, and no man does, and no woman does. But if you're going to be a lifelong spouse, if you're going to be a person that we're going to be married to under the vows, you're going to be judged. Not only will men be judged, but women will be judged as well. And you can't pick what your spouse is going to judge you on because they have to live with you. So that's where she gets it wrong. But other than that, I mean, she has a few points here and there. I think most men think it's weak to ask about, oh, what's your body count? You know what? As old as I am, I've been married for a long time. But even before that, I never, ever asked a woman how many men she's been with before. Never. And it's not because I'm some stud. It just never really kind of crossed my mind, because if she'd been with one, she's been with somebody before. There's some differences in the numbers, but if she didn't have any, if she had experience, she had experience, and that's as simple as that. Anyway, but every man is different, and every man who wants to marry a woman and keep her as his own, he has the right to judge her. Now, if he doesn't think she measures up, he's got to be man enough to move on. Unfortunately, too many men are weak in that sense. They stick around, they accept shit that they can't live with, and it becomes a problem. So no matter how pretty the woman is, no matter how much you love her and all that other bullshit, if you think she's been too promiscuous, do not marry her. Don't. It's as simple as that. Anyway, so enough at the jibs, running at the jibs for me. We're going to let the woman tell it. And she has a few points. I got to give it to her on some areas. And some other areas, and the main one is that she doesn't want to be judged by men on how many Johnsons she sucked. She doesn't get to choose that. But anyway, without further ado for me, let's let the woman tell it.
Asks me my body count, I never speak to him again. If you're a person whose brain just went, oh, that's because she has a high body count, I want you to listen to this. When a man asks me my body count, it is for one purpose. I want to make a judgment about your character based on your body count. They will try to say things like, oh, well, I'll tell you my body count too, or I just want to get to know you better, and I promise I won't judge. I really have an open mind. It doesn't matter to me. So first...
Now, that's where she's correct. If a man's a pussy like that and says to her, I just want to know, but I'm not going to judge you, he deserves all the ire that she has to give him. If a woman came to me and said, you just want to know my body count because you want to judge me, a man who understands is going to look her in the eye and say, you goddamn right, bitch. I want to know how many guys you fucked. I mean, I've never said that, but that's what you should say. You shouldn't cower and try to, weasel word around because that's what you're doing. You're judging her. Tell her you want to judge her. And she could say, you know what? I don't feel like being judged. I don't want to talk to you no more. And you got to be man enough to take that, move on. Beautiful women in this world are a dime a dozen. There's so many pretty women out there. There's so many other women out there. Should never go crazy over one.
First of all, it's not the same thing for a man to tell you his body count and for you to tell yours to him, because we all know that men's body count will never affect the way that people view him or
That she is, she see, like I said, she has some right shit that she's talking about.
his like worth in society or to himself. Secondly, when he assures you that he doesn't care and it really doesn't matter to him, I can promise you he's lying from the fact alone that he asked you the question. A man who doesn't care about your body count won't ask you about it because it truly doesn't matter to him. And lastly, if he's telling you that this is a way for him to get to know you better, that's because he thinks that your body count says something about you as a person. If a man cares.
All right, so let me also stop it here. A woman's body count absolutely says something about her as a person. I'll sit down here and I'll dispute that with any woman who wants to come up and say it. If you're a whore, it does go to your character. Just like if a guy is a bully or a guy is, a low character, woman who sleeps around has low character. There's no way around that. So, it might not matter to a certain man. If it's a one night stand, it definitely doesn't matter. If it's a guy who doesn't care about your past, he'll marry you anyway. I mean, he's a fool, but he'll do it. So, but it does. I mean, the things we do in the past matter. All the things that we do in the past matters. It matters if I'm buying a mutual fund. It goddamn sure matters if I'm going to ask you to marry me. So, so she's being stupid here. But I get where she's coming from, but she is lacking in some maturity.
About your body count. If a man asks you what your body count is, this is a number one red flag that this is a deeply insecure man and you need to run.
That's the gaslighting part. That part is gaslighting. There's a whole lot of other things that you should run from a man who's insecure. But, wanting to know your characters. Not one of them, but she's right. Some men are insecure about how many other men you've been with. And I tell those guys, if your girl's been with one guy who was slinging a Johnson, you still might not measure up to that one guy as opposed to 10 or 20 or 100. So if you're really worried about it, one guy banging her ass out could be all she needs to know that you don't measure up. So, sometimes you got to let some shit go. You really want to know whether you could be with this woman without embarrassing you because she's a flirt. She'll bang out the next guy with a little bit more money, a little bit more cachet, that kind of stuff. So like I said, she's not 100% wrong in what she's saying. She's just trying to be so judgmental of the guys that she's forgetting that she's going to be judged as well.
Need to head for the hills as fast as you can. You're one of the people I was talking about in the beginning who thinks that because I refuse to talk about my body count, that means that I must have a really high body count. You are the deeply insecure person that I'm referring to. You assume that I don't want to talk about it because I have a high body count, and you are saying that that's a shameful thing, and that's why I don't want to talk about it. Someone's body count.
Okay, yeah, you know what, lady, it's a shameful thing. It's a shameful thing. I mean, if you think about the anatomy of sucking a lot of dick for women, it's a shameful thing. I mean, you don't have to go to, the only person that you need to worry about is your maker. But it's a shameful thing. There's shameful things that men do that they can't run away from. So this is a shameful thing that women can do that they can't run away from. So you're trying too hard to act like it should be normal that you could get fucked by random dudes on a regular basis, and it doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter to you, then what kind of woman are you? Right? Because there are, hormones that get passed. There are, those oxytocin issues. If that's all broken for you, then you're a broken woman. If you can't cleave to a man because you like Johnson so much, that what kind of relationship, what kind of wife would you be? You know what I'm saying? So it's not that you don't have no points. I think you're overemphasizing the points, or you're underestimating the points of a woman who has a lot of dicks. That's why people don't marry porn stars, not on a regular basis. I know a guy who married Riley Reid. She was one of the greatest porn stars that ever worked. This guy gave up his whole family to marry her. They don't talk to him no more.
Count is not a shameful thing. It's literally their private health information. If a woman would like to share that information with anybody, whether it be like a partner or their mother or their friend or whoever, then they will share that information when they feel comfortable. You don't need to ask them. Pretty much any woman can tell you that this is a loaded question from the start. If a man asks you your body count and you tell him, one of two things will happen. The number that you tell him either will or won't fit into his societal expectation of what is the correct number or what's an appropriate number. If your number is higher than what he had in his head, he will then start to resent you and judge you and think differently of you and lower of you. But on the other side,
well, he's going to judge you. He might not resent you. He's just going to judge you and say, maybe, she's not the one for me, which is doing you both a favor, don't you think? If he can't handle the fact that you had 100 dicks in your mouth, then yeah, he shouldn't marry you. That's not going to be good for you. That's not going to be good for him either. So that's one. Okay. I use 100 as a figuratively speaking, figuratively speaking. But what's the other one?
If your number is at or lower what he deems societally okay for a lady, he will say that you're lying.
That is true too. That's absolutely, a man don't ever believe a woman when she gives him a number. So she's right there. And again, I agree with her that men who are overly obsessed with a woman's body count is he's not ready for the Western world. He's not ready for the modern woman, because I think for that guy, he needs to move to maybe a Muslim country or somewhere else where there's an expectation of virgins. In the West, it's been long. I don't think most men in the West, black, white, or indifferent, really, really obsess over whether women have sex with men before. And I got married in 87, and I wasn't obsessed with it back then. You remember the sexual revolution was in the 60s when the men came out with the pill and women went absolutely apeshit and having sex. So the point really is, I think a lot of this is overblown. But in 2025, if a man is overly obsessed with a woman's body count, and she has a point in terms of him just coming out and say, I want to judge you, as opposed to all the rest of the conversation, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to judge you. He wants to know whether you can cleave to him as a woman bonding to a man for a lifelong relationship, not a partnership, like she said. Men don't want partners. Most men want wives. If it's a partnership, yeah, it doesn't matter how many sexual partners you have, because at some point you're going to leave anyway, because at the first sign of trouble, most women in partnerships leave. That's one thing men need to get to understand. Women can't handle any stress in a relationship anymore, so they leave, especially if they could take the man's money and then use his kids as a weapon.
Because let me say it again, if he's asking you about your body count, it's because he's a deeply insecure man.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. So the deeply insecure thing is crazy. Men have the right to judge women that they're going to want to marry. Again, if there's anything more, if it's just a one-night casual affair, Most men ain't asking about your body count because he knows you're not for him. It's just his turn that night. And then that's fine with most men. So anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and hit you. I didn't usually interrupt these kind of let the women tell it thing, but I wanted to interject the points of where I think that she was, kind of overstepping. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're a woman and you're going to have a relationship, a marriage covenant relationship with a man, he's going to judge you because you're going to judge him, right? I mean, and that's rightfully so. That's what courting's all about. It's a judgment period. That's what it is, So she's very immature from that standpoint to think she's going to get through a relationship without being judged. And if she thinks that, the judgment should only come when she's ready to give it to you, well, wait a minute. I don't want to waste a lot of time with you, a year or whatever. Then you kind of tell me that you was an OnlyFans model, you was a whore for, all this period. And now I'm supposed to say, okay, now that I like you, that doesn't matter. I think a man who acquiesces to that is an idiot. He's an idiot because you were putting on a fake show for a year and a half until you think I'm deeply entrenched enough that I'm not going to really care about it. And most men get duped by that because, let's face it, a lot of men are weak when it comes to romance. It comes to falling in love with women. We're the romantic ones. Women are always about business, even if they don't seem like they are. In the end, it's always a calculation with them. And that's probably a natural thing. So with that, I've said enough. Our pain, marriage, politics, and sports. This is the 115th episode to Body Count Judgment. We let the woman tell it, and she has some points, but she's not all right. Over and out.